Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is the Fancounters Celebrity Podcast.
You were like the carrot top of interviewers.
Wow, how disappointing was that question?
You did not just ask me that.
Well, that's a big question.
Never mind, I'm done. I'm not doing the show.
Wow, I can't believe it.
I'm telling you, I'm hooked.
Nick.
Yeah, he's so awesome. He's still a good friend of mine.
Welcome to the Fancounters Celebrity Podcast. My name's Nick. Thank you so much for being here. This is episode 181 of Fancounters, and we would love for you to go to Apple Podcasts and go and review the show. Give us a 5-star review. Tell us how we're doing. Tell us what you like about the show, and I would greatly appreciate it. Now, last week I teased that I went to the live show of WATP. Who are these podcasts? And it was an interesting experience. Number one, because I've been on the show. I have been a guest on the show, I think, 2 or 3 times. And was really excited to meet Karl in person. In fact, I sent him an email and I said, hey, I've got my ticket. I'm going to be there. I'm really excited to go. And like a month later, he writes back, oh, cool. I think we're going to hang out on Friday night. I'll send you the location. And maybe you want to hang out with us. He did not send out the location. I did not hang out with him. But I didn't intend on coming down to Chicago 2 times in a row because their show wasn't until 6 o'clock on a Saturday night. So I would have had to stay overnight and hang out in Chicago, which it's okay. But driving down there one time was all I was going to do. But anyway, so we didn't hang out on Friday night. I go there on Saturday. The weird thing about this is next time he does a live event, I hope he puts down what time the actual event starts, because all I knew is that doors opened at 5. So I thought, well, I better get there right at 5 because it doesn't even say what time the show starts. What if it starts at 5? So no big deal, but I dragged my brother with me. Now, my brother had never listened to the show. So I was sending him links and I'm like, listen to this episode. I think it's a really good one. Here's one that I was on. You should check it out. And so he thought, well, this show's a lot like Jim Florentine. Now, if you ever listen to Jim Florentine's podcast where he rants, it is the same thing every week, right? So he just has kind of the same formula. And I mean, that's what a show is, right? I mean, you have a plot, you have a premise, and you do the same thing every week, basically, with a little different content. And that's what Karl's show is. And I love Karl's show a lot. And I loved being on the show. But meeting him was a little bit of a downer. Now, let me tell you why. So he was running around before the show. And I get that when you're doing a live show and you're kind of the main guy who's setting all the stuff up and doing things for yourself, you're a little busy. And I didn't expect to really talk to him before the show. But I was coming back from the bar. He was flying across the room and I was like, hey, Karl, how's it going? And he waved and he looked at me like, I don't know who you are. And I said, it's Nick from Fancounters. He goes, oh, hey, you came out. And I said, I told you I was coming out. And I said, I printed off the South Park picture that a fan had made of all the people that had been on Who Are These Podcasts. Would you sign it for me? And he goes, oh, yeah, definitely. I'll do it after the show. Fabulous. I let him go because I knew he was really busy. I went back, ate my food, had my drinks. I was good. Show started. The show was really good. But it was held in like a bar type atmosphere with a stage where bands perform. Like, I guess, I don't remember what bands were going to be there, but bigger name B-list bands were going to play. And so the audio, although it turned out really well for the podcast, in the audience, it was very hard to hear. And when you are clipping, because what he does is review podcasts, right? So when he's clipping shows that already sound like garbage and you play it through a sound system meant for music and drums and guitars and vocals that aren't really ever that good live anyway, you couldn't hear them. Like, I couldn't hear what half the clips were. And I get that I'm an old guy and that's probably on me, but it was very hard to understand what the clips were. So that was a downer. But here's where it gets to be really a downer. So I'm going to go get my picture signed, right? And I'm holding on to it. And Karl was wrapping up. I think there was going to be a band on the stage right after that show, but then that didn't end up happening either. and so he had to clean up really fast. Well, I am a very patient person. I don't like to interrupt people, and I don't like to ask people twice for things. I think if I've set the precedent that this is what I'm looking for, I don't like to bother somebody and ask him multiple times. He knows I want it. I'm there. I'm a physical reminder, right? So after the show, he's wrapping up his cords and doing all this crap. So I just hung out by the stage, and I was very patient, and my brother was there. And maybe part of it was I wanted to impress my brother because I wanted him to be like, oh, yeah, you know this guy, and that's why we came down here, and he, appreciates you and all that. No, that's not how it went down. So I stood by the stage for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I'm watching other fans walking on the stage, interrupting Karl while he's wrapping up cords and putting things away and running backstage, and, he's putting stuff away. And I'm seeing all these fans interrupt him, and I thought, man, that's really rude. I would never do that. But you know what? That was the only way you were going to get his attention, I found out, because he never really came down. He never came to me, to be honest with you. So as he disappears in the back, I'm waiting for him to come out, and it's 5 minutes. It's 10 minutes. It's ridiculous. And then all of a sudden I look over, and I'm like, told Chris, Chris, who's my brother, he's right over there. He's not on the stage anymore. He's in the audience, and he's talking to somebody. I'm like, what the crap? I was like, this guy blew me off for no reason. I mean, I've been on the show 2 or 3 times, and he blows me off. I was ticked. But anyway, I go over there, and I was like, Karl, hey, I want to get my picture signed and all this stuff, and remember who I am. And then it was kind of cool, and we took a picture together and stuff. And this is the South Park picture. I don't know if you can see that very well, but a fan made that. And if you look like right here, I think I posted this before, right by the sign, that's where they put me in the picture. So that was super fun. It was nice to get the picture autographed. And then this is the one that they were selling at the show, a little character cartoon thing. And then they had pre-autographed it. So I'm super happy to have these souvenirs, but a little disappointed that Karl blew me off. And I was driving home with my brother, and I'm thinking, why would I have not gotten any mutual respect from Karl? And I'm thinking that he was he was drinking during the show. Drunk, definitely a possibility. Strong weed smell in this place. Could he have been high? Maybe. Could there be some other things going on? Possibly. But anyway, I'm reading into it that Karl did not appreciate me being there very much, because he called out everybody else who had ever joined him on the show but me during the live show. It is what it is, but I was disappointed because, sometimes they always say, and we've mentioned this on the show before, don't ever meet your heroes because they'll disappoint you. Now, Karl's not my hero, but I respected him as a podcast host, what he has done to build WATP from the ground up, to have as much audience interaction as he does, and to make as much revenue from the show as he does. It's phenomenal. So I applaud him for that. The guy is a genius in that respect. But as far as taking care of his guest hosts who have joined him before, and I do my homework, folks. When I go on that show, I bring the clips. I'm ready. He doesn't have to wait on me. I'm always available, and whatever. It is what it is. So, Karl, if you're listening, man, the interaction, wish it could have been better, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So I will continue to listen to WATP. I'll continue to promote his show on my show because I love him, but maybe I don't go to any more live shows. I don't know. And then I'm sure he'll cry about that. Let's move on to the show today. That was enough of that. But I did want to share the story with you because I talk about WATP a lot, how much I love the show, and wanted to share that story. Now, on the show today is Catia Ojeda. And if you are thinking, wow, that name sounds familiar, it probably does. She's on the show Just Add Magic, which is a humongous show on streaming services. And she is about to be on a TV miniseries called Me, coming out sometime this year. So Catia Ojeda is joining us now right here on the Fancounters Celebrity Podcast. Catia Ojeda, welcome to the Fancounters Celebrity Podcast. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
No problem. Now, I feel like we have a lot to cover today, so I decided to leave out some of these weird things that I found out about you, like your love of cosplay. Not. I did stalk your social media a little bit, so we won't talk about Brussels sprout puffs that you found in the grocery store, even your success that you found adulting. We're going to leave all that alone.
Great, for today.
Just for today. Yeah. But I do want to start off. My daughters are 9 years old. They're twins. They loved the show Just Add Magic. They never listened to my podcast because I think they hear me talk enough at home. So I'm going to start with this because they are really excited to find out some things from you about that show because they were addicted to it and watched it. So let's start there. So Just Add Magic did look like a very fun show to work on. Do you carry some fond memories being on almost 50 episodes of that show?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's such a good show. It was such a good show. And I think one of the best things about it is that it was just as great behind the scenes as it was in front of, the product that we put out, which is such a pleasure. I don't want to say that that's a rare thing in this business, but it's definitely a special thing when you find that great group of people and everyone just gets along and it's a special group. There really was a little bit of magic behind the scenes in that show, for sure. I really miss it.
Well, I want to hear a little bit about the magic. You played the mother of Olivia Sanabia. I hope I'm saying her name right. Who my kids watch go from Just Add Magic to the Coop and Cami Ask the World show on Disney.
Right.
Did you guys do any pre-filming bonding to get that mother-daughter relationship to be authentic, or did that just happen?
We did meet before. We did have to do what they call a chemistry read or a screen test together before we were cast. I mean, she was already cast, obviously. She and the girls were the stars of the show, and then they filled in the rest. But I definitely had to have a big audition screen test with her in front of all the fancy Amazon people to make sure that we had a chemistry together, that we had a bond, and it was so easy. She is the sweetest, most wonderful, charming young lady, and it's so easy to love her. And I'm a mom in real life, so I've been playing moms for a long time, so I find it really easy to connect with kids and check into that maternal instinct that I have.
But you have littles, right?
I do have
under
littles.
5.
Are they littles? I don't know. What time is it? What day is it? How old are they? They're I have 2 boys, ages 2 and 6, but they're almost 3 and 7. So,
okay.
I mean, yeah, littles. It's been
I feel like that too. Even though they're 9, they're still really little,
Right. When are they not little? I don't know. You let me know. So you have 2 girls?
Yep, 2 girls. They're in 3rd grade. Nope, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
2 twins. That'll do.
We were gonna have more, and then we're like, this is good. We're good.
Hands full.
That's
exhausted.
Enough. Yeah.
All set.
It's funny. I have a friend that's a little bit older, 1 year old, has a daughter 1 year older. And every year she's like, oh, this is the year it gets really, really easy. like they become responsible and all this stuff. I'm like, when does that happen? That hasn't happened yet. And she goes, I think I'll tell you that every year. So
does it ever happen? I mean, we have our hands full when they're little. Obviously, there's a lot of physical work to do as parents. But then when they get older, I'm told you have to do actual, parenting.
Yeah.
Right. Like emotional, psychological well-being, that kind of, which is hard in a different way. Right.
For sure. Now, with working with so many kids on Just Add Magic, I'm sure that they were probably playing some pranks on the set. Am I right?
Yes, I would say yes. Those rascals.
Did anything happen to you?
Did anything happen to me? I think one of the funniest, some of the funniest things that happened on set is there's a lot of food in the show, right? Obviously, the girls
bakery.
cook. Right, they cook magic things. And there was a cooking segment on in each episode, there's a magical cooking segment. It's part of the fun of the show.
Yeah.
So I think the girls had a lot of a lot of funny moments with food because they're always eating, you know, they're cooking and then they eat the thing and then the magic happens. So they had a lot of mishaps with food, of things being cold or gross or, you know, or delicious, or they took bites that are too big. Like, eating on camera is such a strange, weird thing. Every actor will tell you it's one of the hardest things to do. Like, you get so self-conscious about taking a bite of food, or even like taking a sip of coffee. It just feels strange. I don't know why. So there's a big episode in season 1 that I'm in where I eat some magic chocolate truffles.
Right,
and,
by accident, like you weren't supposed to.
By accident, and then, you know, magic happens to me. It's so fun. One of my favorite episodes to film. And so they're called, I think they were called Bitter Truth Truffles, and they were indeed bitter.
Oh.
They were kind of hard to eat, and they were really big. And we had, you know, food stylists on the show and a chef backstage, like making the food. So everything was like safe and fresh and all that stuff. But they were huge. They were really hard to eat. It's, you know, hard to have a huge mouthful of chocolate and then try to act like a normal person. But life's hard. I had to eat chocolate on the show.
Right.
You know, that's
well, no, but I get the eating part because you're also delivering lines at the same time. So if you have too much or you take too long, then there's a big delay. And
I mean, you like, your mouth is all smacky and chocolatey, and they have to like wait for you, and you have to get water, and it's embarrassing, and you know. But again, boo-hoo! I had to eat chocolate. It was so hard, you guys.
That's funny. I'm always curious on the production side, so this is kind of my question. I know that like sitcoms will do a few days of rehearsal, and then they'll tape the show in 1 or 2 days. Whereas, you know, one of these dramatic episodes sometimes take 8 days to film. What was Just Add Magic's schedule? Like, when would you get a script, and then, you know, how soon before you're on set filming and rehearsing and that kind of thing? Walk me through like what that was.
Okay. Well, this was even though it's kind of a comedy, a family comedy, it was not really a sitcom. It was a 3-camera show. So it's not, single camera shows are filmed like a traditional sitcom, like on a stage where you rehearse for a couple of days and then you film it, sort of like a live theater kind of feeling, right? That's the traditional sitcom we know. But this is a multicam show. So how we did it, so we would film 2 episodes simultaneously over the course of 2 weeks. It's something called block shooting that's fairly common these days. So we would get 2 scripts at a time and then film them simultaneously over 10 days, like a 2 5-day week period. So sometimes in the morning you would film a scene from episode 5, and then we would have lunch, and then in the afternoon we would use the same location and film a scene from episode 7. So a little challenging to keep track of sometimes, of like where we were in the story. I mean, all TV and movie, you know, famously film out of order, right? But it's filming out of order and jumping sometimes it would be like episode 2 and episode, you know, 8. Wow. So you'd have to keep track of like, okay, what happened in this and you know, it was fairly easy for me, but the girls had a lot to keep track of. I mean, I know they had like journals and stuff over like what happened and over this time so that they could keep up. But It's fun, you know. I think it's fun. It keeps you sharp.
Oh, certainly. But I figured that it was to make use of the location, so they didn't have to keep, you know, lighting or whatever. But to do stuff from different episodes, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, jumping around.
And the line memorization. I mean, were you pretty natural with line memorization going into this?
You know, I am. It's just a lucky skill. I can memorize pretty quickly. I've just been blessed with be able to naturally do that. And then, you know, being an actor, when I like to call it when you're in shape, when you're working on a show or you're really busy and you have a lot to do, like I find that's my best time. Like my brain is on in that way. So I find it easy. I mean, some actors have a harder time, but you definitely have to be pretty good at it to work this quickly. Yeah. You know, you keep it in the front of your brain. You know how like, what do they call it? The temporary memory. Like I put it in right in the front, use it. And then when we're done, it's gone. Like I wouldn't be able to remember it the next day or
Okay.
even an hour later. If we have to go back to it, I'm like, oh no, I already emptied it.
Right. I
That
can't go back
temporary
there.
quick memory,
Yeah. I always wonder when they're just a director trying to get you in a certain spot and you're having trouble like remembering what just came before or what after, to keep those lines in your memory, and how you were supposed to be delivering them has to be challenging as well.
It is challenging, but I think it's fun, and in TV and film, when you deliver your lines, or there's also blocking, and you have to hit your mark, and it's all been staged of where generally you're supposed to stand and what you're supposed to do, and then you have to keep in mind continuity, which is, I'm sure you know what that is. Like when the editor goes in and puts it all together and gets the different angles, you kind of have to do it not exactly the same way every time, but pretty much the same, like in the same world, that it would match what you did 30 minutes ago, so that they can put it together well. So you have to keep that in your mind too. So it's actually it can be kind of scientific, but I think that's fun.
Very cool. Let's talk about another show that I watch. You'd be surprised because my wife doesn't watch this show, but I do. But maybe it's because I was the stay-at-home dad to my kids, but I watch American Housewife. Katie Mixon, I think, is a genius. I love her comedy. I think she's wonderful. There was a funny scene that I remember, and it's on your comedy reel, actually. When I watched that, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that, but I didn't know it was you at the time. So my question actually leads to that scene that you put on your reel. And it's a line in the show about if Katie's character moved out of Westport, which is the town that they live in, that something like you would be the second fattest person, house mom or something like that.
The second fattest housewife in Westport. Yeah.
How shockingly horrible. But is it hard for you to kind of put yourself in a line that makes fun of you? I mean, because you're not a heavy lady. Let's put it out there.
Thank you.
Look,
it's true.
Yeah, it's just for the show, but still, you're copping fun at yourself. So is that hard?
Right. Yeah, good question. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, in the moment, I was like, oh, this sucks. Like, am I, putting myself out there as a fat person, when I'm not. I mean, I'm not a size 2. I never have been. That's not me. But I think that's the joke, is that how ridiculous this town of Westport is, with all these skinny, ridiculous, perfect.
The blonde Reese
Stepford
Witherspoon
wives.
types, yeah.
Right, exactly. So I think the joke was, oh, well, let's find a normal sized woman, me, size 6. Ooh, gross. And that's the joke, that she would be the fattest person being a normal person, Yeah. So I get the joke, and I think it's funny. So if you can, but yeah, there was definitely a tiny vain actress part of me that was like, oh no, ew, that, I don't like that. That doesn't feel. Then if you're in on the joke, it's fine. Yeah. And I'm in on the joke. I think it's funny.
I thought it was a funny scene, but then just going back to the person who has to say the line.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. And what's Katie Mixon like? Is she just as personable and nice to the day players as she is to the regular cast?
Yes, absolutely. Super, super nice. So generous. That scene. We were first, and I think, first up in the day on the shooting list, and it was an insanely early, criminally early call time, like maybe 6, maybe even 5:30 in the morning. When you have to show up to the makeup trailer, and she was super nice. And I think I can say this now. I mean, at the time she was pregnant. And but wasn't telling. It was a secret, she wasn't telling anybody yet. I think I can say it now because it was years ago, and I think we all know. And she was so nauseous that morning in the makeup trailer, just like morning sickness, feeling horrible. I mean, I know you don't actually know, but you're married.
I don't.
You remember.
I do remember. Yes.
It can feel pretty awful in those early days. So she was, trying so hard to keep it together. And then we get on set and she's amazing. Like she
forgot about it, or at least
turned
didn't
it
let
on.
it show.
Yeah. Total pro, and so lovely when it was crazy early and she was, trying not to vomit.
Another, say that again.
Oh, I know how that feels, for sure.
Another famous star you got to work with is Regis Philbin. In fact, you worked with him twice on some commercials. And the thing about Regis for me is I feel like he always kind of plays the same part, whether he's on a game show or he's on his talk show or he's doing a guest spot on a sitcom or something. He always was just him. What was your experience with Regis?
Exactly what you think Regis is going to be is he's Regis. Like that's who he is, I mean, we all remember his big personality. He's like, hey, it's Regis, but he was like that on camera, off camera, when you're having a snack, when they call cut. I mean, he was entertaining everyone, no diva, like just a person who genuinely loves people and loves talking and loves entertaining and asking questions and was very funny. Like, and Kelly Ripa was too. They both were exactly who they present themselves as on TV. It's like, yeah, they're natural hosts and comedians and super funny, super fun.
We always hear don't meet your heroes because they could let you down, and you don't want to be let down when you hold them so high. But Regis said actually, because I guess your commercials were many years apart. Is that correct?
Yeah, they were a few years apart. Like I think for quite a few years in New York, Kelly and Regis did like a thing with TD Bank, and they did all their commercials, which is an East Coast bank. And I was hired for a couple of them several years apart. And Regis pretended to remember me. Which I thought was so nice. I did not expect him to remember me like this, girl who did a commercial with him one day years ago. But I came on the second time a few years later and, they introduced me, we're going around and introducing ourselves. And I think I shyly said like, oh, I actually, I've met you before. I did a commercial with you years ago, not expecting him to remember, like giving him the excuse not to remember me. And he was like, oh, Catia, of course. How you doing? How you been? What's going on? And I could tell it was total BS. I'm like, you don't remember me. But he pretended like he did and was so generous about it. And I thought it was just very charming and hosty. Like the kind of person who never says nice to meet you, the kind of person who says good to see you.
Okay.
Because that like covers all the bases. Do you know what I mean? You never say nice to meet you, because you don't want that person to say, oh, we've met before. I think a good host says, hey, good to see you.
Very
Do you know isn't that smarter to be like that covers?
Much smarter, very Regis-like.
Yes, very Reg.
Well, of course, I'm sure you're expecting us to go on to this next topic, which is the film Closure. And you'll be proud of me because when I was home last night, I thought, well, we were looking for something to watch. I said, I got to watch this movie because I can't just talk about it and not see it. So my wife and I watched the movie last night, and it was very well done.
Thank you. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, you bet. So the one thing I want to mention about this is, although it's an independent movie, and we've been watching a lot of indies on Amazon Prime because they're just, we're running out of stuff to watch. We've been inside for so long.
Right.
But some of them are very well produced, but they're not very well acted. And some of the acting seems very forced, or just maybe they didn't hire the best. Like they got a great initial cast, but then everybody surrounding them is kind of mediocre. But Closure did not have that. Like the whole cast was just spot on with their parts. So I know, and it's fair to mention to the audience that your husband is the writer and director of the film, Alex Goldberg, right?
Right.
So did he have a hand in casting as well? I mean, obviously he cast you, but
of course, darling.
What was his involvement picking those right people? Because that was well done.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And that was super important to us. Exactly what you said about indies. Sometimes the actors are just off, or like, oh, okay, all the production value or the tiny budget went to special effects or like a horror stupid thing, or whatever. Horror is its own genre. It's not for me, but live your life. Anyway, actors, getting good actors was number one on my list, because for me, that's what, obviously I'm an actor, but that's what pulls me into a story, and that's what can take me out of a story.
Sure.
If the actors aren't good, I don't care how good the special effects are, if the script is good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Alex, my husband, and we cast it ourselves, and we cast people that we know. We actually didn't hire a casting director.
Oh,
for this.
interesting.
We did
okay.
Ourselves, also to save money.
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm.
And we were like, how can we save money? So we were like, you know what? We're so lucky to know all these wonderful actors, and we've, worked enough on things that we have enough of a network of actors that we know. And every single actor in that movie was someone that we know from real life, or that we've worked together before, with the exception of Tom Choi, who played Hugo, sort of my love interest.
Yes,
briefly,
he's fantastic.
Isn't he wonderful?
Yeah.
And he was actually a friend of one of our other producers. Was like, oh, I have this great actor, Tom, and we met him, and it was, meant to be. But every single other actor was a personal friend of ours, or a colleague. Yeah.
Very cool. What I liked reading about Alex when I was studying this movie is that he was very upfront with the crew. It was his second feature film, but the first one with like a real budget to work with. And I read that he told everybody, look, I'm not going to know everything, so I'm going to rely on you to kind of guide me in certain areas, and I'm not going to BS that I know stuff that I don't. And that seemed to work out really well. Obviously, I think as a crew that would bring you closer together, because it makes them feel more part of a process, or part of the process of making the film. Is that what happened?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, now I'll say something very nice about my husband. I think that was a really good, I personally think that's a mark of a good leader, whether it's a director on a film, or a CEO of a company, or president of our country. That no one human being knows how to do everything.
Right. No
one person is an expert in every single thing there is to know on a big thing like making a feature film, for example. And my husband is super smart and talented, but yeah, this was his second feature, the first one with a real budget. So he was like, you know what, I'm going to be really upfront with the crew. And we made sure to hire department heads that, were experienced and knew what they were doing, and had a reliable crew of their own. Cause each
subset has their own people. Mm-hmm.
Right. There's a department head for each major thing, and then they have their people. And Alex was like, he wrote the script. He had a clear vision for what he wanted, but he's like, I'm not an expert I have a lot to learn. So he did his best to communicate what he wanted. And I think the crew really respected that. And it also made them feel it was a pleasure for them to be on set, because they got to do what they do, and be experts in their field, because they are,
Mm-hmm.
and they were treated respectfully. And we had a really happy crew. Which is key to having a successful, especially in indie, we only have each other and an idea, and her natural light, hurry up, we're losing the light.
Yeah.
No, what's that airplane? And we don't have like some cushy studio, so we really only have each other. And it was a happy crew, it was a happy set, and we're really proud of the film that we made.
Now, were there moments on the set where there might have been some tension or drama, or as far as maybe you didn't agree with a decision that was going to be made? Because now with your husband directing the film and you're starring in it, did any of that on-set drama kind of follow you home, where you're like, I'm not talking to you tonight?
Absolutely never. We never fight. There's never conflicts. Yeah, of course.
But how did you separate that?
Well, it's challenging sometimes, but Alex and I work really well together. That's how we met. we met working on a play together in New York. He was a playwright. He wrote a play, and I was cast in it.
Okay.
So we had a little showmance. But that's how we met. You know, the beginning of our relationship was a professional, collaborative one. So I think we can still speak that language well together. But yeah, of course, there were a couple times on set. We never ever let it show on set. There was one night, you know what? There was one night of filming. Do you remember the sequence where I follow the like creepy cop into the abandoned house and things get like messed up? That was a rough night of filming. It had just been a long day, and this was one of the only few times we filmed at night, and it was late, and we were in literally an abandoned apartment building. It was super creepy. And it was rough. There was like a little bit of a fight scene, and I got thrown around a little bit, which was all carefully staged, and I was fine. But it was like emotionally really draining. And I remember when we wrapped, and I was crying. You know, it was rough. I mean, my character was going through a rough time. But naturally, any actor, like if you spend hours getting thrown around and crying, it's gonna affect you, the person, you know. That's only natural. At least it is for me. So finally we got it, and Alex was like, awesome, that's a wrap, great job. And I kind of want to go to him for like a hug or something, and instead he hugs the DP.
Great job.
Like, oh my God, we got it. Like he goes to his crew,
right?
Instead of to me.
Yeah.
And I had a wifey moment of like, but I'm killing myself for you. Like, wah! And I was pissed. And
that's funny.
Yeah. And it's like midnight, and it's cold, and I've had a rough night as an actor for hours, and I was pissed. And but you know, I keep it together. And we wrap everything up, we gather up our stuff, blah blah blah, and we go home together because we, you know,
you drove there together,
in car, like, you know. And he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, what's wrong? And we had like a husband and wife argument, and but then we kissed and made up, and it was fine. And he's like, you're right, I apologize, because he's a smart man.
I'm sorry, it's my fault.
But he was like, of course, I wasn't thinking about you as my actor needing anything, you know, like, you're my wife, you're strong, you're my partner, you're fine, is right. What he was thinking. But I'm like, but I'm a vulnerable actor and I need a hug.
Yep, I need reassurance.
Yeah. So I got my hug, and you know, we carried on. It was fine. But yeah, that was actually our big fight in the 2 weeks of filming.
I think we got an exclusive here.
Yeah.
Speaking of hugs, I've always kind of I watched this knowing that Alex was directing and you were in it, and I mean, there's a love scene in it. How weird is that to be doing that with another man in front of your husband? That seems so like.
Yeah. You know, Nick, I mean, is it fun or is it exciting? I mean, it's both, you know. It's I mean, first of all, Alex wrote it. He wrote this.
He knew what he was getting himself into. So
I mean, he wrote it on purpose. And again, we met doing a play. He wrote a play that I was in. That's how we met. And there was a little romance in the play, and I had to like totally make out with this guy on stage. So again, those are the circumstances that we met. And I'm an actor. It's part of the. If you can't handle that, being a partner to an actor, if you can't handle them having a romantic scene, because romance and kissing and
it's part of the movies and television,
part of life, you know, like it's going to be portrayed on film and on stage. So if you can't handle it, maybe you shouldn't be with an actor, you know. I mean, it is sort of weird having like a sex scene choreographed by your husband with another man, but it wasn't boring.
It wasn't graphic either. I mean, you're fully clothed.
Oh no, it's a very PG, well, maybe PG-13 kind of sex scene.
Yeah.
Don't worry, kids.
I don't know. It seems like it'd be a weird day on set, but
yeah, weird, but you know, you gotta laugh. And the actor was a friend of ours, and I don't know if that makes it better or work. I think it made it better. It was.
Well, he was probably very respectful of boundaries and that sort of thing. Where
Yeah. Also, you're surrounded by a camera and a crew, and it's awkward anyway. I mean, it's love scenes are always kind of weird and icky. So if you can't laugh about it and have fun with your friend and your husband, yeah, that's actually probably the best love scene I've ever done. Because I'm comfortable with the people,
Yeah. Now, if you had a chance to pick your next project, whether it would be more like Just Add Magic or more like Closure, which direction would you prefer to go?
Good question. I mean, I am so, okay. I'm really, honestly, truly grateful for all the opportunities that come my way. I mean, I've had enough success in my career to say that this is my only work, that I'm able to make my living solely as an actor, but I haven't had enough success that I'm able to say no to projects. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
I get a job, fantastic.
Yep, I'll take it.
Do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if another Just Add Magic type job came my way, that would be wonderful. But if I was able to choose, I would choose more like adult type stuff. I guess I would go in the Closure direction, or sure. I would love to do a grown-up show, a major sitcom or a This Is Us type drama. That's my dream, my goal. But if I got another Just Add Magic type job, if anyone's listening,
yep.
If anyone's like, who can we get to play our warm and funny TV mom? Me, call me. I'll do it. Happily, very happily.
And I didn't want to make that seem like it's a one or another. And maybe that's a bad question to even ask an actor who's,
No, I mean, I don't have the privilege of saying no to any jobs right now. Is the truth. So I will see what comes my way. Who knows? In the meantime, I'll take what comes my way and keep making projects of my own. Alex and I already have our idea for our next movie, which is a very, very grown-up movie where I don't play a mom. So,
okay.
Best of both worlds.
There you go.
I can have the best of both worlds.
Are you a writer too?
I am a writer too.
Okay.
Yeah. Alex and I started writing together.
Neat.
I've always been an editor, of his work, and some other writers that I've worked with, like a story editor, you could say.
Okay.
But yeah, we've started writing together. We have some TV projects we've written together that are hopefully being shopped around right now. Stay tuned.
Okay. All right. On Fancounters, the hook of this show is every guest has to tell us about their favorite encounters with their fans. So have you met any fans that stick in your memory? Like, oh, I'll never forget this person. What are those fan encounters like for you when somebody recognizes you?
They're fun, and they've changed a little bit. When I lived in New York, I went to college in New York and lived there until 2012 when Alex and I moved here. And my bread and butter when I was an actor living in New York was commercials. I was really lucky. I hit a stride. I booked a lot of commercials in my 20s. So I got recognized on the streets of New York for commercials I was in occasionally. And New Yorkers are not shy. So it wouldn't be like, oh, are you Catia Ojeda? They didn't know me as an actor. They would just be like, hey, New York Lotto girl on the subway,
okay. Yep.
So that was always fun. I did a commercial for Playtex bras.
Okay.
A very funny, not like a sexy bra commercial, more like a funny bra commercial, but I was in a bra. And I definitely got recognized for that. Okay. On the subway, be like, hey, it's the bra girl, woo, so that's always memorable.
Getting called out on the subway.
Be like, it's the bra girl on the subway.
And you're like,
and I'm like, that's so embarrassing / I love it.
Yeah. More.
Yeah, it's me. Please stop. It's me, the bra girl. But I think the first time I got recognized for a role I had played was after Just Add Magic came out, and I was at the playground with my son, with my little son, and a little girl comes up to me and she's like, "Hi, are you Kelly's mom?" and I was like, "Oh no, I'm Leo's mom. Leo is my son's name." I'm like, "Oh, is this little girl lost? Is she looking for Kelly?" She's like, "No, you're Kelly's mom." I was like, "No, honey, I don't know who Kelly is. I'm Leo's mom." She was like, "Kelly on Just Add Magic, you're her mom." I was like, "Oh my gosh, Kelly."
Oh, you weren't in that world. You weren't thinking that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just at the playground with my kid, like a normal mom, normal mom. So that was like, oh, right. Kids like New Yorkers are also not shy. They'll come right up to me and be like, "You're on Just Add Magic. You're the mayor." So I get that from kids. And now my son is in school. He goes to an elementary school, and like some of the older kids recognize me, which is it's fun. He
cool.
doesn't get it though. He has no idea, which is fine.
Has he seen the show?
No, actually.
Oh.
And I'm not going to push it on him. He's 6 and he still kind of favors cartoons over live action stuff. But he'll see it. I mean, I'll show it to him when he's
I think
ready.
one day you just need to put it on while you're making dinner or something and just let him find it. Mom,
yeah,
Mom,
and be like,
that's you.
Oh, is it? Oh, I had no idea. Oh, I forgot I was on this show. That's so funny. He'll see it. Don't worry. But
I know.
Yeah, we just haven't gotten to it yet.
That's very cool. So what other projects do you have coming up? Are you working? I mean, you mentioned a couple scripts and pilots that you're pitching and that sort of thing.
Yep. Pitching out some stuff that we've written. And Alex and I are working on our next film together that has already been written. The script's in great shape. We're just, we haven't made plans for shooting yet. I mean, we're still in these coronial times, I like to say, these COVID times. So soon we will make plans for shooting. I mean, honestly, the amount of money that would add to the budget to have the COVID protocols.
I was thinking that when you said to wait, and I thought, well, there's got to be a lot of financial reasons to wait.
For sure. I mean, I haven't actually run the numbers because I know that it's just going to be insurmountable. I mean, it's hard enough gathering the budget you need to make the film you want to make. I mean, we did it before and we'll do it again, but I can't imagine doing it with all these safety protocols you have in place, which there should be safety protocols in place. I'm glad they're there. Thank you, SAG-AFTRA and all the unions for doing this for us to keep us safe, but we can't afford it.
Sure.
So straight up. When we're out of this time and we're gonna make our movie.
Awesome. Two last questions really quick. You mentioned New York a lot, but you don't live in New York now, do you?
No, I live in LA. We moved here in 2012.
Okay. Did they shoot Just Add Magic where? In Los Angeles, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In Los Angeles. Yeah.
Got it. All right. I was just trying to sort those details out. And then lastly, plug the mom.
At 29 years old. I was the mama dog. Like Cruella stole my puppies and I had to go find them.
I didn't even know that was a musical. I had no idea.
It was supposed to be a big deal and it fizzled out on the road, I'm afraid. But we did get to end our tour at Madison Square Garden in New York.
That's impressive.
So that was pretty stinking cool to play the Garden.
Yeah, right. Catia, tell me where we can follow you on social media. Where can we keep up with all of the stuff that you're up to?
Oh, you can follow me on all the usual places, on the Instagram and the Twitter, and I'm there. My name is just @Catia Ojeda. And I'm on Facebook too, I think. I'm not big on the Facebook, but
Yeah.
it's not cool.
Everybody's
Kids
about the
aren't on
Instagram
Facebook.
anyway.
Exactly.
You don't
Just Instagram and Twitter, folks, at Catia Ojeda.
No TikTok for you.
I'm not that cool.
No, me
I'm
neither.
not on the, I'm intimidated by the TikTok Clubhouse. Is Clubhouse a social media or what?
I have heard people like you have to get invited to Clubhouse. Like people, because I'm involved in like some of the acting groups and stuff, and like I have an invitation to Clubhouse if anybody wants it. And I'm like, I don't even know what that
But
is.
what is it?
I don't know. I'm not sure. So I have not accepted the invite. I haven't asked for one.
Yeah, I mean, I've been invited too. Of course, I get invitations like
all the time.
Like my phone will not stop pinging with the Clubhouse invites. But no,
I'm sure somebody will write in now and tell us what it is.
I can't wait.
Okay.
You kids have fun on your new places. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter with the people in their 30s and 40s.
Excellent, awesome. Yeah, we've invaded that space now. So. Because
Yeah, so they
Instagram
have
just
to
used to
leave
be
us
the
and-
teen thing, and now it's people like us.
Well, now it's not cool anymore.
No, they're all going to flee that too. We can make and break social media very quickly.
That's right, with our uncoolness.
Right.
Like, oh, my mom's on Facebook. Ooh.
Thanks, Catia, so much for joining me on the show today. I appreciate it a lot.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks. My thanks to Catia Ojeda for joining us on the show this week, and my sincere apologies for pocketing the show for 3.5 months while we waited to come back. And, I talked about it last week. If you don't know why there was a 3.5 month delay, go listen to episode 180 because I explain it all in the first 3 minutes of the show. So I'm sorry, Catia, that this show took 3.5 months to air. And I'm sorry to your publicist who trusted me with your interview and getting it out there right away. 3.5 months is not right away. And, we're working through these. I got one more to blast out that was taped 3.5 months ago, and then we'll come up with some new content or maybe even new show format. That is something we will talk about on next week's show of Fancounters. So join me next week when we'll talk about what this show might morph into. Then I want to hear your suggestions via email. Maybe you have an idea of what you'd like to hear us do on the show, and lots more. So come back next week. We've got a star of a movie that is a party like no other, and I guarantee that. And you'll hear all about that guest and that movie next week on the Fancounters Celebrity Podcast. So come on back. Bye-bye.